What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Christian Labasco podcast. Today I've got Savas on. He's grown to 1,500 followers on Twitter and has created the best community to help creators grow a personal brand on Twitter. I'm super honored to have him on as a guest. How are you today?
Thanks, man. Thanks for the great introduction. Really appreciate it, and thanks for inviting me here. It's my pleasure.
Of course. I've done the best community to grow with Aiden and Ewan, and they both laughed and smiled when I did that part. But it's true, so got to make sure to include that. For those that don't know your story, could you give a little background on how you got into the creator economy and your story before that?
Yeah, for sure. So first things first, the reason I started growing my account on X is because I got deeply involved with self-improvement a while ago. And the reason I got involved with self-improvement is because I was depressed 10 years ago. I went through a very bad period in my life, and that depression pushed me into realizing certain things that about myself, essentially, and about what I want to do with my life. And in the process of getting myself out of depression, I started acquiring some skills that allowed me to investigate essentially my own self and try to understand what's wrong with me. And in doing so, I also got the skills to help other people. It all started with a set of techniques that is called EFT. And it's basically a set of techniques that you use to help people with trauma and limiting beliefs. And after working with a few people with that, it was one-on-one live in-person consultation, essentially, and doing the practice. After working with a few people for that, I quickly realized that I need to do something that has more scale, because I realized my passion for helping people and for creating an impact. And now I needed the scale. I needed to be able to help. Sorry for that. I needed to be able to help many people at once, essentially, and spread a big wildfire of self-improvement, essentially. Because once I found that peace inside me from finding my purpose and finding what I want to do, the only thing that was left for me was to simply share those insights and share that flame with other people, if that makes sense. So that experience essentially with EFT initially gave me
that makes
the idea that I should do something self-improvement related. So then how do I create this impact that I imagine? The simple solution that I found is through social media, because I was already watching YouTube and seeing people like Dan Coe, for example, and other people who are in different niches, like Jordan Peterson, for example, and his psychology-based approach to life. And I was inspired by all those people and started creating some content for myself and try to see if I can somehow make it sustainable. And that's what led me to start growing an account on X. And
that's awesome.
Trying to share those insights with people.
That's awesome. Who are some of those people, like if you had to name maybe just one or two of them, that you think have had the biggest impact on your self-improvement journey?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, Jordan Peterson had a huge impact on me. I started seeing his videos on YouTube, and then I also read his books. And there was just something about that personal honesty that he was talking about that clicked inside me and it made me realize that I was lying to myself for many things for many years. And I had those, I had built on my mind those fake perceptions of what is reality, so I can protect myself from taking responsibility and neglect the things that I should do, essentially, to fix my life, and start blaming other people instead of taking responsibility for that life, which is mine. Jordan Peterson was so direct in the way he passed the message that actually moved me. And it helped me realize that I need to make that change and take that leap and start being honest and start taking responsibility for that honesty and start doing something for my life and walking step by step towards becoming a better human and a better person, instead of only focusing on ephemeral pleasures and discovering the things that I don't have, by tricking myself into cheap dopamine and things like that. And you understand. One of them was Jordan Peterson, but there are other people like Terence McKenna, for example, which is not a person that is widely known widely known around on our spaces. Terence McKenna is actually an ethnobotanologist. I think what the profession is called. He died in the 2000s actually, but what he did during his lifetime is he was exploring the psychedelic experience, and he was a scientist essentially. But even though he was a scientist, he was having those experiences with himself, and he was the one that was consuming the substances to see like what exactly is there. And his talks on YouTube, which there are some wild and 3 hour long talks that he was talking about the psychedelic experience, inspired me into that experiential way of being, and experiential in the sense of trying for yourself before you make a judgment about something, and walking the path essentially, and allowing yourself to follow the journey and to explore. Essentially, that exploration, that sense of exploration, is what really inspired me from Terence McKenna. And then, of course, there are other people like Elon Musk, of course, with his absolute insanity of business achievements and technology and innovation and all of those things. Like, I generally get inspired by people who have also started from nothing, like myself, or even below nothing, which is like depression and anxiety and those bad mental places, and have managed to achieve something. Not achieve in the sense of like having a lot of money necessarily, but achieve in the sense of having found their path, and having created some kind of impact out of the lessons they got from life. That's what generally inspires me, and those are three people that do that for me.
That's awesome. Jordan Peterson has definitely been somebody I definitely resonate with that. I think the idea of truth and being honest, especially with yourself, is something that's so powerful. And telling the truth, I think he has this idea that if you're not telling the truth, like throughout your life, then that's a persona of who you are. So you're not even really living the life that you create, because it wasn't your truthful, sort of authentic self that was living that life. It was sort of this persona of trying to tell people what they want to hear rather than what you're actually thinking. So I think he's been super powerful, but I haven't dived too deep into Terence McKenna. And Elon Musk, I've read his book, I think, autobiography. I think it was like the kids version. I read it when I was very young. I don't think I've read his a more, I think it's more recent, and that's a adult version. It's a little longer, but he's just inspiring what's possible. Just as one person. Yeah.
When everyone is falling victim to things like the woke mentality and everything, you want to be a guy like Elon Musk. You want to be the guy who is free, essentially. I mean, at least in our perception, we don't know what's actually going on there, but in our perception, he seems to be free in terms of having freedom of speech and being an advocate for that, and building the things he wants to build, and taking us to Mars.
Yeah, it's just inspiring what someone's able to do if they set their mind to something. Yeah. So what would you say brought you to Twitter? Like, was it Dan Coe? Was it something else? Like, why Twitter? Why did you start writing there?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I initially I started growing on X because I had the realization that I need to create some kind of impact and share those insights that I had. But the reason I joined Twitter specifically is because I started on Reddit at first, and I experimented with Instagram a little bit, and I experimented with other things like LinkedIn, even just a little bit, and even TikTok. Like I started creating some small videos and see like what's up. But Twitter is the only one that actually made sense to me. Like even from the first 2 weeks of me starting to use it, I realized that there is a wave of people right now that are hopping on Twitter, and they are creating those things that are called like personal brands. And I didn't know back then what that was, but I saw those people doing that, and I realized that, oh wait, those people are actually trying to do something like what I am trying to do. Because before that, I was thinking that I was the only one who had this thought of, I want to create the impact. If you are outside of the game, it's hard for you to realize that there are other people who have those thoughts as well. I thought I was unique. And seeing all those other people who were striving to grow their personal brands and create some kind of influence in the world by first, like, even just achieving monetization and just creating freedom for their own life. That was inspiring for me, because it touched on a few of the things that I wanted to do with myself and my life. And so I started connecting with those people, and once I created a few friends, I was stuck. I wouldn't trade Twitter for anything anymore. And hope that
That's
answers your
awesome.
question.
Yeah, it does. That's awesome. It's like a gateway to self improvement if you are in the right space of Twitter and you get to be surrounded by these people that are passionate about similar things and people that can introduce you to things you never thought about.
Mm-hmm. I came for the impact, you could say, and I stayed for the friends.
Yeah, that's something I do like a lot about Twitter is that the emphasis on community, because I've tried doing YouTube and things like that, and it's a little harder to build a community, I think, especially because it doesn't reward building like an engagement kind of a group of people as much, and also you can't message people like you can on Twitter, which allows you to build connections rather than feeling like you're all on your own building this thing.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense to me. That's exactly a big part of my reason as well why I'm here.
What would you say are some things that you think help set you apart from other creators on X? Like maybe something about your story or your ideas or who you are?
That's a good question, and it's a little hard for me to define what exactly makes me different, because I haven't met that many people yet. But if I had to guess, what I would say is that my determination is one for sure. Like, I know that I am most determined than probably most people out there, simply because I know myself on that part, and I know what I have been through and what my determination has been through and what I have overcome. So that's one thing that I bet most people can't hold a candle on me on. Then there is, I guess, my a little bit unique approach, where I combine science and spirituality. And I say that because most people are either very technical in how they approach seeing life. They have the frameworks and the logic, and they see things like rationally. And then there is the other side of people who see things like spiritually, and with deep meaning, and they allow themselves into the moment, and they trust the universe and all of those things, and instead of following logical structures to put some order in their own life. So something that on those lines, what I think makes me perhaps a little bit unique is that I combine both approaches. Like, I believe that science and spirituality essentially should be connected. And what I mean by that is that, yes, there is the deep meaning, there is what we call God. I truly believe in that, although I don't have a specific name to describe God. I don't believe in the dogma behind religion. But I also believe that if you want to achieve your goals, no matter what those goals are, even if they are spiritual, and you want to save the world or create something good for people in a large scale, you need to have systems and structure and logic, and you need to be scientific about your approach. So that's one other thing that I think makes me a little bit unique, because I think that most people focus on either one or the other. Does that answer the question, or do you want me to
I
try to
love
find
that.
the third one?
No, that's great. I love that. It reminds me of this thing Naval said on the Joe Rogan podcast. Sort of this idea that like a rhinoceros isn't interesting by itself, a unicycle isn't interesting by itself, but you put them together and that's really unique. And it sounds like that intersection of structure and spirituality is sort of in like marketing like an unfair advantage because that's unique to combine those two things and have them work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely agree. By the way, can you hear the dog in the background? Because I can close the door if that's
Yeah, just a little
audible.
bit.
Okay. Let me just give me one
Yeah, I
second.
can hear that. Okay.
Should be much better now, right?
Yeah, I don't hear anything now. So I
Perfect.
think that did the job. That's awesome. Yeah. Sort of moving on to the community, X order community. What gave you slash you Aiden and Ewan the idea to start X order?
Sorry, can you hear me? You cut out a little bit there. I lost you on the why. I bet you're trying to say why I created the community or how that came to be.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that was we are moving in time now, and we are going about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, which was 4 months after I started on X, 4 or 5 months after I started growing on X. So during that time, I hopped on a mastermind where me and Aidan and Ewan were inside the same mastermind essentially, and those two guys are the co-founders of the community of Xorder. And we were talking about our strategies and discussing and communicating around offers. And some of us had clients, some of us didn't have clients, and we were trying to help each other out, on a weekly basis. We had those calls every week. So one discussion led to the other, and through multiple weeks of doing that, at some point, me, Ewan, and Aidan, we figured out that perhaps it would be a good opportunity right now to create a community together and combine our skills in doing that, because we, all of us, like the three of us, all believed in in a future where impact creators exist and they have overtaken the cheap dopamine creators. And impact creators are essentially people who care about leaving a good mark on the world and making some positive impact and being determined towards doing so. While the cheap dopamine ones are all the people you see like creating videos of cutting soap, with a knife, because it's satisfying and people are just hooked watching on it, and they just get like the cheap dopamine and cheap pleasure at the moment, but they don't really get any value out of that. So we believed on a future of impact creators and impact personal brands. And so we decided to try and see if we can manifest this ideal that all of the three of us had. And that's how Xorder began. We started strategizing and planning about how we will do the launch and how we will bring people inside and how the structure of the community will be. Before you know it, it actually came to life, and we got our first few members in. And flash forward a few months later, that's how we met you as well.
Yeah, it's amazing what can happen when you meet the right people and take the opportunity that's presented. Did you guys ever consider doing a cohort, or was the community always what you guys originally thought you were going to do?
No, at first we didn't really consider doing a cohort, if I remember correctly. We thought the best idea would be to create a community, but an idea for a cohort came later, once we realized that it would be high leverage for us to do so, because during a cohort, and specifically a 6 weeks program, the one we are creating now, we would have the opportunity to help a few select people and take them through the whole process essentially, and through the whole process that most creators struggle with, and that's like the monetization part. So yeah, initially we didn't have that idea, but after we grew a little bit and we started managing the community a little bit and we started getting some experience and studying other successful creators as well in terms of how they create their own impact, we figured out that this could be a high leverage thing if we can pull that off. So that was that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see how how this cohort does for you guys that you guys are building right now. I know
Appreciate you,
you
man.
guys have gotten so much experience from. I know you guys have gotten so much experience from doing this community, talking to these people on these calls, interacting. It's like this community is basically market research times 100 because now you really understand the people that you're trying to help. So it's really awesome. What would you say was that process of building and growing the community? Like, what was that like?
It was really hard because we had no idea what we were doing at first, and but we could see certain things. We could see how we did some mistakes. We could notice that at some points, like there are some people who are not really invested. They are not really engaged, and that gave us like more information about what we should do to perfect that and make that better. And we were generally open to experience to see what will come, and I think that's what kept us from like failing and losing everything and starting from zero again or something like that. Yeah, it was
How
generally
much
hard.
time were you guys spending?
How much time?
How much time were you guys spending?
That's a little hard to define because every day was different. Like for example, if it was my week to create a lesson call, then I would spend more time in the community, and that's because I had to prepare the call and prepare the material and to create as much of a good lesson call for the people. But generally, it could be something like 1 or 2 hours per day during the maintenance phase, and maybe at points where we were building stuff that could be up to 5 or 6 hours, but it depended.
Yes, it's a lot of work that goes into the community. It's incredibly valuable, especially for the price. So definitely say that the work you guys put in has paid off
Yeah,
for the people in the community. It's very valuable.
Especially if you count the skills we were getting along the way and the experience with how to actually help people and how to actually help people achieve transformations. That's invaluable, man. Honestly.
Yeah, it was more about the person you became by pursuing the outcome rather than the outcome itself.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you suggest to creators who want to start their own community on School or somewhere else?
Let me think on that. Yeah, I would say, if you are not prepared to be dedicated about it, don't do it because it's not gonna work. If you are not prepared to eat some sand and eat some dust and eat some soil, if you're not prepared for that, it's not gonna work because you will have to brainstorm a lot of problems to try to find the solutions on them. You will have to encounter many situations that you don't know what to do, and you will have to be committed to wanting to know the answer instead of like allowing it to fizzle out and allowing it to die. Essentially, you will have to treat it like a child. Essentially, you will have to be committed to it. If you feel like that's your calling, I would say go for it. But if this is simply a way for you to make money or something, yeah, that's not for you, man.
Yeah. It sounds like to me that a cohort is a more lucrative opportunity for the leverage, especially as a smaller creator, rather than a community where you need a larger audience in order to really make a lot of money. Like Hamza, he's able to make money with leverage because he has such a big audience that it's worth the time he puts in if you're worried about the money. But when you're smaller, I think the cohort makes more sense if your goal is the money and an income.
Well, at one hand, yes, but On the other hand as well, if you want to create a cohort, you need to first get the experience of actually achieving the transformation for people. If you want to package that up into something that can be communicated to multiple people at once. So, I wouldn't say that the cohort is something that someone should start with. The path I would take if I was alone and I didn't have the guys would be to simply I would start with consultation, because helping people one on one is the easiest way, but it's not scalable. So I would start with one on one, and then I would get after I get some experience and I help a few people start achieve the transformations. I will take notes and document the process and create like case studies, and I would use all those things to create a course. And maybe after creating the course and having it as a backend product, as a as like how do you call this, passive income essentially, then I would perhaps start thinking about creating a cohort. Because it takes a lot of work too, and you need to have experience with talking with a lot of people as well. You can't just decide to talk with 30 people if you have at the same time, like if you have never done it in your life before. It's a totally different experience than talking with someone one on one. You know, like reading the people and seeing like their faces as you're talking, so you can judge their emotional states and understand like if they are following you or not, and all of those things that make a successful cohort. It would be hard to do as a beginner.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It sounds like to me that the cohort can only be started sort of once you have done the market research and you've in some way systemized the process where you're able to sort of consistently get results for people one-on-one. So now you sort of have an understanding of, okay, so this is what I need to do. So this will work if I present it to multiple people and they don't have as much one-on-one time with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially, you need to be confident that you know what you're talking about, and you know that, and you know how to present the information in a way that actually take people along for the ride.
Yeah, I kind of said it better myself. What do you think are some of the things about your community that help you stand out compared to other communities, or some things about maybe the kind of people like Aiden, you, and Ewan, or something about the way you guys set up the community or the value you provide that stands out or is sort of an unfair advantage?
Well, first of all, I would say it's our commitment to take this long term, and our commitment to actually create an impact with it instead of only making some profit and then dropping it for something else that sounds more lucrative. That's one thing. Then I would say that we each have some specific talents that complement each other in a great way. Like, for example, Sir Aiden is a little bit more inclined towards the monetization side in terms of what skills he has. And then there is Sir Ewan with his branding skills. And then there is me with optimal performance and productivity, essentially. So this combination kind of gives us the ability to be able to take a kind of a holistic approach when helping someone achieve a transformation. Because what are the things that you need if you're a creator that is looking for creating a sustainable life for yourself and making money online, essentially doing what you love? You need three things. You need the systems to monetize. You need a way to position yourself as an authority with your personal brand, so you can attract the right people and attract the right people that would be interested to buy what you have to offer. And then you also need the systems and the optimal performance, so you can optimize your everyday life towards achieving those goals. And we are not only teaching people inside the community about money and how to make money and how to get leads. We are also taking, as I said, the more holistic approach in terms of teaching them also about all sorts of systems that they actually need to achieve that. There is also an element of self-improvement in there that it's hard to find essentially in other communities. There is either like the self-improvement communities where you talk about positive habits and transformations, and in terms of physical transformations like becoming more good looking and having more muscle and being more fit essentially. And then there are the other communities which are most focused on giving you writing tips and monetization tips and talking about funnels. But we plan to cover all this spectrum eventually. And I think that's what will probably differentiate us from other communities as well out there. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. It's, to me, it sounds like that your community has a holistic approach to being a creator. It doesn't just focus on one aspect of being a creator. It focuses on spirituality, productivity, monetization, branding, writing, all of these aspects rather than, so it's like you come here and you get everything you need rather than being in 7 different communities. And sometimes they don't align because the way you see productivity helps align with the way you create content. So it seems like it sort of creates a school of thought, as Talon Simmons said.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had to start over with your community, what would you do to get to where you are now faster with the knowledge you have?
That's another good question, man. You just keep them coming. Let me think on that. What would I do to get to the same place as I am now if I was starting over with a community? Do I get to keep the skills that I have gotten?
Sure. You have the knowledge you have now, so I guess, yeah, that means the skills you have now as well.
Okay. Well, to be honest, if I was starting again from zero, I don't think that I would start by creating a community. And that's because the community essentially takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of mental energy. And during the period that we started creating the community, I believe I should have focused more on establishing some skills more. Like, for example, establish my writing more and working a little more on my sorry for that, and working a little bit more on my personal offer into developing a little more and scaling it a bit more. And that's because through the time that I have been working with the community, my personal stuff have been a little left behind. So I think that by focusing a little bit more on my personal stuff back then, instead of creating a community, I would have been able to scale much faster my personal things. And if I then created a community, it would have gone much faster, and I would have much more experience and much more time to give and less stress, essentially. So that's what I would have done differently, essentially. But to answer the specific, to the specific way you asked me the question, like if I was to start the community again, what would I do differently? I guess I would be a little more prepared to focus a lot of my time and a lot of my attention and optimize myself for prioritizing certain tasks instead of prioritizing some other tasks that I did back then. And I know it sounds a little bit vague, but yeah, I guess it is a little bit vague.
Yeah, I know what you mean though, and I think this question is an interesting one, but it's also a bit difficult to answer because it's kind of hard to put yourself into your past self because they didn't know the things you know now. So it's like you had to do what you did in order to know what you know now. So it's sort of like a paradox of, because otherwise, how would you know? So it's just it's an interesting thought experiment, I guess. That question, if you had to start over, what would you do differently?
Yeah, but just
Moving over
one quick
to
thought
kind of,
that came to mind. Just one quick thought that came to mind. If I did have to start again, as we said, one thing that I would do differently is that I would make sure that I have a solid funnel, essentially. And I would try to use my funnel more to get people into the community instead of doing too much outreach. That's one thing, like one practical thing that I would do differently.
So focusing on building the traffic so you have inbound rather than needing to spend time doing outreach.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's something a lot of creators can learn something from, is to be able to sort of automate that process of getting inbound leads rather than spending a little your time on a lower leverage task like outreach, rather than building a system that gives you leads automatically.
That makes absolute sense. And I have a quick question for you, though. So, what would you say the people who are going to watch this podcast would want to achieve? And by giving me an answer to this question, essentially, I might be able to tailor my answers in a way that would be most beneficial to those people.
Yeah. I would say, I think number one, the simple sort of thing is building a personal brand, which building an audience. And then I think second is sort of monetizing that audience, and just sort of like listening to the podcast allows them to get a holistic understanding of the creator economy in the game.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, man. Let's move on.
Of course, that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah. I think it's a really good question, actually. Yeah, it's probably something I should say to my guests more often, what the goal of the audience is listening. So thank you for asking that. Yeah.
My pleasure, man.
Moving over to sort of what you seem to be the most passionate about, with productivity, performance, and things like that. What does a day in the life for you look like from a productivity standpoint, or a week in your life?
Okay, so let's talk about from the perspective of a day, because pretty much all my days are the same, except some days like Sunday, for example, which I will explain. So I generally try to wake up as soon as possible. Right now, that means that I consistently wake up around 6 or 7 a.m. And right after waking up, I will. No, basically, do you want me to describe this as a routine, or do you want me to tell you like the principles of how I operate inside the day? What would be best?
You could do both. You gotta go through the routine and then sort of do the principles that are predominant throughout the routine, like the routine, and then why you create that routine based on those principles.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so first of all, right after I wake up, and that's around 6 or 7 a.m., as I said, I always start the day with meditation. And specifically, I have some affirmations that I use, and then I do meditation. And I can go in depth about those things if you want me, but let's go through the whole thing first, and we can pick and choose after that. So after the meditation, I essentially start with 3 hours deep work block. And during those 3 hours, I always focus on the most important task of the day. That's like the frog, as we call it in productivity terms. And essentially, I always start like the first thing I always work on is the hardest thing. That's the principle for that deep work block. And then I have about 1 hour break after those 3 hours. And during that break, I will have some breakfast, and I will do some extra meditation, usually. And right after that, which lasts about an hour, then I will have another deep work block, which lasts 3 hours again. So it's like, to take it from the start, it's 1 hour meditation, about 1 hour. And then it's 3 hours of deep work, 1 hour break, and 3 hours of deep work again. And then I take a 2 hours break, which is about eating something again, and usually taking a long walk around 1.5 hours perhaps. And during that walk, I always like to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something like that, and take notes at the same time. I really love doing that, like walking and taking notes on my phone while listening to something that's directly connected with the things I'm building at this period of my life. So I come back from the walk, and I start yet another deep work block, another 3 hours. So depending on the day and depending on how much energy I have, I might take a break after that and have a fourth deep work block, which completes a 12-hour workday, or it's gonna be 9 hours of work, depending on what I'm working on at the moment and how my energy has been sustained throughout the day. So I don't
Wow.
have to do all those things, but right now I'm building, and therefore I truly have cut out everything else from my life. I see my real life friends not very often because I am prioritizing building right now, and at least until the end of the year, and maybe even more after that. After I can start, until I can start like delegating some tasks, because I don't want any of those things I'm working on to stop right now. So yeah, it's not like I have to do those things. It's not like if I will get food on my table depends on if I work like 12 hours or not. Uh, I'm making enough money to sustain myself even if I worked like 2 or 3 hours per day, and that would be more than enough. But right now I'm building, and therefore I'm prioritizing to scale. I'm prioritizing the future right now. So that's why I'm doing this. I wouldn't suggest it to someone because sometimes it's painful if you have to work and be focused for 12 hours essentially. And you really need to, if you want to attempt something like that, you really need to nail down your active rest, which are like the meditations I'm doing, and then the walks I'm taking. And I have specifically designed my whole day according to productivity and optimal performance protocols. And of course, I have iterated a lot with time. It didn't start like that. At first, I had no idea what I was doing. Sometimes I would try to work for like 16 hours and I would burn out for a week and I couldn't move like a muscle in my head. But yeah, through practice, I have come to a place where I can do that. I can work like for 12 hours, and the active rest in between is very important if you want to sustain that, because otherwise you won't have energy and motivation the next day. So which one of those things would you like to explore? My suggestion would be to talk about the affirmations and then meditation, because those are my favorite things.
Of course, whatever you're interested in talking about, you can talk about. There's not too much structure. Whatever you think, like whatever resonates with what you feel like talking about right now, go ahead and talk about that.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about affirmations then, because and before anyone who's listening starts thinking that affirmations is just something that you repeat to yourself in a way that you trick yourself into believing something that you don't believe. That's not how affirmations work. At least that's not how I do it. So let me explain. Essentially, I have created a set of phrases that resonate with me. And when I say resonate with me, I mean they resonate with who I want to become. And I don't repeat them daily with the thinking that by repeating them, I will make it reality somehow in a magical way. No, I simply repeat those phrases, and I can also read them to you if you're interested. I repeat those phrases because I want to instill those phrases in my subconscious mind, and I do that by doing the affirmations thing every day right after I wake up. And so I repeat those phrases, and every day, and as I repeat them, I try to imagine what I'm saying. Like I try to feel what I'm saying. I try to at the moment act as if that's true, like without putting pressure on myself, like believe it, while I don't believe it. I try to simply imagine how would it be if I was that way. And that actually, like there is scientific evidence that if you repeat something, if you say something, even if you don't believe it, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. If you say something, it actually, and you repeat that many times, it actually goes back into your subconscious mind, and it gets engraved in there. So you are changing your subconscious mind by using your conscious mind on the effort of repeating certain phrases. That's actually something that has been documented to truly work. All of the science behind NLP, for example, is based around that certain phrases have the power to, for specific people, have certain the power to change how they think about a topic. Like if you're experiencing a negative emotion, for example, and you connect with words that emotion with acceptance, and you say, "I accept this feeling that I'm getting, that I'm feeling," uh, it actually has a neurological impact in your brain. And this is how the NLP practices and the EFT practices as well are kind of structured around. But yeah, is there something you want to ask me about the affirmations?
Um, Not specifically, but I have sort of been exposed to this idea from, I would say maybe the one that is most prominent that I remember is the book Think and Grow Rich, where you read that mantra to yourself in the morning and the night, and that becomes rooted in your subconscious. And I think it's really important how you say that you really feel that. It's not like, because when you feel that and you become that person now, what that person would do is take action towards that, not sit around and think they're just going to get it by not taking action. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing people think about affirmations, is that they're just going to sit around all day and say, I'm going to have $1,000,000, and then they have $1,000,000. It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming that person that will have $1,000,000 and then taking action towards that. So I think that's a good distinction you made there.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, the logic is that you want to instill those phrases in your subconscious mind. And by doing so, in your everyday life, you will feel more inclined to take the decisions that lead towards those ideals when you are faced with a decision to make between two things. You are more likely to take the one that leads towards the ideal because you keep it at the top of your mind by repeating it every day, and it slowly comes back, comes down to your subconscious, and you start acting that way, even if when you started you were not acting that way.
Yeah. Something I did want to touch on about your routine is, what are the, and if you're uh open to sharing, what are you spending that time on specifically, like building, like do you have like a breakdown, like I spend 4 hours making content, 4 hours are building this product, like coaching, or how do you break down that use of hours every day?
Yeah, so right now, uh, more than half of the hours I spend on work. And again, just a small parenthesis, but it doesn't really feel like work for me. Closing parenthesis, felt like I had to say that. But yeah, more than
Yeah.
half of the hours I spend on work, they go on the 6-week program we are creating with the guys for the as an extension of the community, the monetization program, essentially. That takes a lot of work as well. So most of my brain power goes there as well, and the rest of my time, I am either creating things like a lead magnet, improving on my offer, working with clients. I used to work with 5 clients, but because the program takes so much effort and the community takes so much time, I had to drop 2 of them so I could prioritize the community and the program. So yeah, I'm working with three clients at the same time, and yeah, that's pretty much where my time goes. And whenever I find 1 or 2 or 3 hours available, I try to push some content creation there as well, which is again, it comes back to uh, that's why I wouldn't start a community or a cohort if I were to start over again from the beginning. I would prioritize on getting my system content right first, and automating my funnel essentially, and delegating perhaps even some of my engagement, and not with my close people. I would want to handle those, but getting some extra engagement and maybe the outreach to a virtual assistant or something. So then I could focus all in with the community and don't have to worry about my brand.
Yeah, that makes wow. It's sounds like you're up to a lot, and I admire the amount of work that you're putting into building something big, and that sort of purpose behind that. It's inspiring. I Yeah, that's incredible. So you're managing the building, the client work. Is that performance coaching? The client work?
It's basically productivity for ex creators. And
Mm.
when I say productivity for ex creators, I mean specifically that I have essentially created a system. And actually, two of my clients are on that niche because I still have one client which was that was on my previous offer essentially, which was pure productivity and not for ex creators specifically. But yeah, I have essentially created a system that is used by ex creators so they can be more productive, and I have my clients use that so they can document their process and understand their self and create their own transformations so they can monetize their brand more productively. Essentially, that's what my offer is right now on productivity. But I do have some plans to develop that further once I free up some of my time.
Yeah. That's really cool. Are those three clients all of your income besides the community? Those three clients make you enough to sustain yourself, just those three?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm full time on X.
That's pretty
I'm not doing
awesome.
anything else.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you're able to do that. You have the skill to be able to do that. Moving on to sort of, I think
I
something that'll
might
resonate
want
with a lot of people.
I might share a secret with you, but
Yeah.
I have actually been not working with anything beyond X for more than a year now. I didn't work before I joined X, and that was because back when I completed my internship, I actually during my internship I organized an NFT project. If you know what that is, it's like it's connected with blockchain and
Yeah.
Web3 specifically,
Hmm.
and
Non-fungible token. Yeah.
through creating that project, me and the guys I was working with there inside the company. We managed to create a solution for affiliate marketing through combining technologies from the current technology of affiliate marketing and the Web3, and specifically through a technology that's called smart contract, in case you're aware of that or someone who listens is aware of that. And we created a
Yeah.
solution for the affiliate marketing space. And specifically, like just to nail this on the wall, it was a way to keep track of the transactions the affiliates have to make, so they actually get their commission without losing the recording of their commission through the cookies. So we created a solution for that, and we actually sold the solution to a bigger company, and that gave me just enough money to be able to not work for a year and completely focus and narrow down on myself so I can build my own
Wow.
business.
That's awesome.
Appreciate you,
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
it was fun as well, but
I did,
very stressful.
I can imagine. I did not realize you were involved in Web3 and blockchain and things like that. That's super cool. Super interesting, innovative space right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not anymore. Just for the record, at least for now. I do have some plans for the future though, but for now I'm all in the self improvement and creator space. Essentially, that's where the cheese is at.
Maybe, maybe someday you'll turn X order into a token, X order token, and people can invest in your ICO.
You bet, man. We actually have some ideas like that on the table.
That's
We
really
will
cool.
make Xorder into a decentralized organization. We haven't
Yeah.
actually agreed on something like that,
For
but yeah, it's an idea.
um, for someone struggling to do deep work, what would be your recommendations? I know that's a little broad, but you could go in whatever direction you feel like makes sense from that.
Well, if you are struggling to do deep work, there are many potential causes for that. One of them could be that you have the inability to focus for an extended period of time. And that could be, if that's the only reason you're not able to do deep work, then you could simply solve that by training yourself with time to be able to focus for long periods, like removing distractions, getting some noise canceling headphones, going to work on a place that's quiet and you don't have like people asking you for things in between your sessions. And of course, um, if that's your only problem, then that will solve it for you. But in most cases, that's not the only problem. You also might have some problems with procrastination or too many distractions. So you have like 30 pages up at the same time in your browser, and you have like the notifications from your phone as well, and you are hooked to working on all of those things at the same time, and you think you are multitasking, but in reality you're simply keeping yourself busy, and being busy is not the same as being productive. That's kind of like one of the core principles of productivity. So you want to remove as many distractions as possible. That's the one thing. You want to try and prime yourself for the deep work, and that means you need to prepare what you want to do from the night before, so you can let your subconscious mind like munch on it a little bit, so you are prepared for what's about to come in the next day, and you don't suddenly realize that you have a mountain of work to do, because that could be stressful for you. You want to remove some of that stress. You want to remove obligations as much as possible, in terms of like, oh, I have to, and specifically undefined obligations, like knowing that you have to take out the trash, but don't knowing when you will do that, because it keeps like hovering on your mind, and it steals mental energy from you. So if you have some things to do, it's better if you do it before the deep work, and do the deep work. You need to be a little more prepared, essentially, and that's what helps a lot of people as well. That's what has helped a lot of my clients as well. Now let me think if I missed anything. Yeah, I mean, if you love what you do, that's one factor that will help you be more focused. But since I understand that this is not something that everyone can do, especially like on will, because they might be stuck in a job they don't like, and they are slowly building their way out of that, or something like that, then you want to, even if you don't love what you're doing, you need to make it fun. You need to find a way to make it fun, like put some music on, have like a sticky note that with a joke or something, so you cheer yourself up a little bit before the work. Like anything works. If you can get yourself in a good mood while doing the work, that's gonna be a deep work. But if you have like a very city mood, and you're sitting down and you're like, oh man, I gotta work on 5 hours on this thing. No, it's not gonna work. You're just gonna procrastinate.
Yeah, that was so much value in like 3 minutes. So that was awesome. Some things that I've heard of and some things that I haven't. That was really great. I think people can find a lot of value in if they re-listen to that.
Yeah, if
Who would you
generally, if
say
everyone
has had the
struggles,
biggest?
if anyone generally struggles with deep work on productivity, just send me a message and I will give you some quick tips.
Yeah, it's awesome. Who would you say has had the biggest impact on your journey with productivity, or maybe a book or an author?
I was actually one of those guys that used to watch Ali Abdal, the productivity guy on YouTube, which is like the most famous productivity guy. But I quickly realized that I didn't like his approach at all. And like, he was the one who got me into productivity, but I quickly realized that this is not the productivity I want for myself. Ali has, of course, studied for the productivity for a very long while. He has studied a ton of books, way more than me. He has his courses on productivity as well, and all of his videos, and countless hours and hours and hours of experience. But this thing that he has, where he has like 30 applications, and there is the one that's connected to the other, and then the second is connected to the third one. Like he has Notion for taking notes, and then he has Evernote for taking this other type of notes, and then there is like the Kindle that's connected to Evernote. No, that's not for me. I want things simple and clear, so I only use my Notion template, and I have specifically designed it to keep there all my research about the projects I'm building, create my content there, so I don't have to have another place for content. Also store my ideas of all kinds, even for my personal development there. Like there is a template that holds everything for me. And that's what helps me be productive, essentially, because my mind has associated this template with deep work. So every time I open a project inside that template, my mind knows, yeah, it's time, baby. Let's go do the deep work now. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah. So, who would you say that you moved to after Ali Abdal, and to someone that is there a certain person in productivity that you resonate with more or
Yeah,
resonate with the most?
there is Sam Ovens, of course, that talks about productivity on YouTube, and there is this other guy. What's his name? Let me look him up really fast, so I can give you the name. Just 1 second.
Is it Rian Doris?
Ryan Doris is on Optimal Performance, so I thought about him, but I wouldn't recommend him as a productivity guy.
Mm.
Yeah, there is also
What
Cal
would you say?
Newport, which is a great one, but there is one
Yeah.
more I'm looking for. Yeah, there is Charlie Morgan.
What would you say?
That's the
What
guy I
would you
was
say is
looking
the
for.
distinction between? What would you say is the distinction between optimal performance and productivity?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, actually. For me, productivity simply means doing more of what I love in not really in less time, but generally doing more of what I love. And what that means for me is that in that when I say more, I don't only mean quantity, but also depth, in terms of the depth that you get in a deep work session, for example, that you are super focused and you are on the moment, and you are really evoking those parts of you that are needed to optimally take you to the next step of what you're doing and what you have in front of you right now. So that's productivity for me. And then optimal performance is simply a little more on the surface for me. Like there are some parts of it that are deep, but it's a little bit more on the surface, like all the things you could do to optimize your everyday life, like having a tracker for your sleep, for example, because knowing how your sleep quality is, and tracking that and doing changes to optimize that actually enhances your performance. And tracking your nutrition as well, so you can like avoid the carbs in the morning, avoid the carbs in the early day, so you can avoid those sugar crashes during the middle of the day. And then there is like all the different supplements you could get to enhance your focus and enhance your productivity and enhance your ability to handle and encounter difficult things. Like optimal performance is a little bit more about that, essentially, for me, while productivity is a little bit on the structural side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you for making that distinction. What do you think is a productivity system that every X creator should have, or not? Maybe not every, but a productivity system you recommend
Well,
for X creators. It
honestly,
doesn't have
I
to be
would
super in
say
depth.
the giveaway I'm dropping next week. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I have created this template specifically for that reason. And I have been using a previous iteration of that for many months now. And it does work for me. It just works, and works for my clients as well. So I plan to give that for free, essentially. And it's simply a system. Just to get into the theory of it, it's just a system that's structured around the concept of ideas. Like there are 3 habits you need to establish to optimally use that system. The first habit is to always keep track of every idea or insight or recommendation or content idea or everything that comes to your mind. Always put it on a specific place inside that template. And then the second habit is that every like 3 or 4 days, depending on how much you use the ideas section, you come to the template and you categorize all the things you have put before. So it's like you put the ideas in the ideas section. You put the personal ideas into the personal ideas section. You put the recommendations in the recommendation section. You just drag and drop them. Drag and drop them. That's it. And then the third habit is that whenever you are working on a project or you want to create content or you want to work on a personal transformation, you use the template. Those are the three habits. So by doing that, you essentially create inside the template, with time, you create a second mind, what we say. And the concept of the second mind is that you start outsourcing the database of information, all the things that you store in your mind, you start outsourcing that externally in a way that is optimized so you don't waste your time doing that. So then your mind frees up and you don't have to remember things because everything is there. You don't have to think about where this content idea went because you know where it is. Because this is the only system you use, essentially. And you don't have all your ideas split between like 30 notebooks or 30 applications. And some of your insights are on the Kindle app and some of the insights are in Evernote. No, everything is in this specific Notion template. And everything is categorized and in their appropriate section. So that's kind of how the system works.
I love that.
It's an idea first kind of system.
I love that. That's something I could definitely fall victim to, is having information in so many places that just getting the information is such a hassle let alone using the information.
Yeah, and the system essentially splits into 4 parts. There is the idea parts, where all your ideas, insights, everything you have to note down quickly. It goes there. And then you have your projects section, which is like all the things you are working on, like your content system. No, sorry, not the content system. Forget I said that. Like your personal brand, for example, it goes there. Your 6 weeks monetization program, it goes there. All of your projects go there. And then you have like the other section, which is content creation, and all your content ideas, your content system, your swipe file, everything is there. And then you have the lab or the research section, essentially. And there you have all your notes about the courses you are reading and the podcasts you are watching and the spaces you are taking part in and want to take notes and all of those things. And all the research you are doing when you are researching other creators to see like what kind of offers they have and what you could get inspired by them and all of those things. This goes into the research section. So essentially, by having this system, everything is categorized appropriately and you are optimized. And of course, it takes some time for someone to get adjusted to using a system like this, because you have to implement those 3 habits and be consistent with them. But after a month, your life is changed, I would say.
I love that. Why do you think that people struggle so much with breaking bad habits?
That's a very good question, man. Okay, so let me think. There is an answer that comes to mind, but let me think if I have something that could be more important than that. Yeah, okay. So I think the reason people struggle with bad habits, and the reason I struggled with bad habits in the past a lot, even if that was video game addiction or porn addiction or smoking, which I was addicted to all of those 3 things at times. It comes down to the secondary benefits that you get from those bad habits. And what that means is that even if the habit on itself is bad, and you know it's bad, and you know that smoking slowly kills you, there are the secondary benefits associated with it. And like, for example, with smoking, it's a little bit clear, like what the secondary benefit is. You get the high, essentially. You get that rush of nicotine inside your mind that stimulates you and gives you energy and boost, essentially. But that's not only it. That's the first benefit, essentially, that you get. The secondary benefit is what you get is something that essentially helps you deal with your negative side, something that helps you deal with your negative emotions, something that helps you deal with stress, anxiety, and fear, and other negative emotions and anger you experience in your experience with other people, in your work, and your own self. So it's like smoking comes into your life and gives you some kind of a fake protection, essentially, by giving you some positive feeling when you need it. When you feel stressed, you light up a cigarette, and that makes a connection inside your mind that tells it to, every time you feel sad, you can rely on me now. You don't have to worry. You're not alone. Like the cigarette tells you that, and it gets you addicted through that way. And with other things as well, like video games, it's clearly things like the sense of accomplishment you get, and the sense of of being able to win something. That's I think what gets most people addicted to things like video games. I think at least that's what got me addicted to it. And with things like masturbation, it's again like the fear, the need for connection, and the need for feeling better while you feel sad. That instant change in your mood that masturbation brings. It's something that creates and enhances the addiction, actually. So to answer your question more clearly, the reason people struggle to come out of a bad habit is because there are things inside them that they need to face if they want to get out of that addiction. Facing those things is fucking scary, man. Not many people are able to see the reality and face that they lack something, and they want to, and they need to get rid of that and fight that and have that confrontation with their own self. They prefer to take it a little bit easy on that and just allow the addiction. And most people who are addicted, they don't actually allow themselves to reach like rock bottom. They kinda sustain it in a certain level by, like, they are smoking, but they're not doing other things that are more harmful, or they may be playing video games, but they're not, and being addicted to them, but they are not wasting their whole life on it. Most people are like that. Yeah, of course, there are rare, a bit more rare cases where people like have completely given up on themselves, and that's actually where I used to be back when I hadn't started self-improvement. I was playing video games for like, man, I swear, like 36 hours without a break. Like, yeah, I would take a toilet break or some break for some food, but that's all I would take, like 4 times. And then I couldn't sleep like for 3 days out of the energy that had built up and inside me, the hypertension. So yeah, I hope that answers your question of why people are having a hard time quitting habits. It's because to quit it, you have to face something you most often than not are not ready to face, and you don't have the determination to actually face it, and that's why you fail to quit.
Yeah, that was amazing and very inspiring. Your story of
Appreciate you, man.
being able to, because it's not easy. It's not easy to be in that situation, and I can only imagine what it's like to be at such a low point. And where you just feel like there's really nothing. There's nothing. There's like no purpose to it, living and being able to find a purpose and meaning in life and then build something that you're proud of. So it's very inspiring. And I think that
Yeah, and
even though
just to give
not
some
many people have experienced
sorry,
it,
go on.
not even though not many people have like experienced it that low, I think a lot of people will resonate with being at those low points at times.
Okay, so just to give some light of positivity into the otherwise gloom impression that I left the people who are watching this with. If you do want to break out of your bad habits and you struggle because you feel like you don't have the determination it takes to quit the habit and stay away from it and actually do it, and if you feel like it's hard, the easiest thing you could do if you want to quit a bad habit essentially is that you need to focus on one thing at a time, one bad habit at a time. And the reason I say that is because the reason most people fail at quitting their bad habits is because they have many bad habits and they have accumulated a lot of those negative behaviors essentially. And at some point they have like all those bad habits in their life, and they feel like they have had enough, and then they try to get rid of all of those things together and completely free themselves out of that all at once. But that rarely rarely works. Like, and I bet it maybe hasn't worked even once for people. Like, you need to focus on one habit at a time, get rid of it strategically, and after a month or two, move to the next one and remove that. And that's because you can't you don't have that much willpower to focus like on completely changing your life during just because of a decision that you had, like on a car ride riding back home. Most people don't have enough determination to be able to do that, and you probably don't have the determination to do that. So I would suggest you simply attack the bad habits one at a time, and track your progress doing that, and remind yourself why you started to quit essentially. Those are the three things that actually improve your chance of actually quitting the habit the most.
I love that. That's so well stated and makes a lot of sense. How do you recommend people to have sustainable productivity and prevent burnout?
Oh, another great one, man. We'll have to sip some Coke for that as well.
Thanks.
Okay, so how do we get people to have sustainable productivity and prevent burnout? Okay, so let's see what creates burnout in the first place. There are a couple of things actually. So the first thing that creates burnout is when you are working on something for a long time and you are not compensated appropriately. That's one thing that causes burnout. If you don't get rewarded essentially for what you're doing. And that can either mean that you are working on a job that you don't like and you're not paid enough, or it can either mean that you are working on something you love, but at the same time, there are some aspects of your life that suffer because you're not making money yet. So in the case of online creators, for example, the second case is more probable to occur because we try to be like full-time creators here, and sometimes we don't really get the monetization game until a certain time amount has passed, and it's hard, and it causes people to quit essentially. So that's one thing, like working hard and not being compensated for it. Then the second thing is if you are then the second thing is if you are not taking enough active rest essentially. If you are working and working and working, but you're never really allowing yourself to relax, all this pressure and stress and anxiety, it accumulates with time and you end up burning out. So how I prevent burnout in my own life in that context is I have those meditation sessions inside the day and those walking sessions inside the day. and I try to strictly follow them. I don't. I rarely skip them for anything, because they are important for me to, as it's important for me to focus my mind, it's important for me to also contract my mind and allow it to allow my attention to be blown wide open, if you will, instead of being concentrated on one thing. That's important for burnout as well. And then let me think. I think there is a third thing that people are generally talking about, but let me think. Yeah, I mean, there is one more thing, but it kind of aligns with productivity as well. So it's essentially not having clearly defined goals. Not having clearly defined goals in terms of like working for a long time on something and not feeling like you're doing progress because your goals are not defined and you don't know like if you're making progress or not. You have no way of tracking your progress if you don't have defined goals. Like I used to do that before when I started growing on X, because I still had no clue about all of those things. And I was feeling like the months were passing and I wasn't making any progress, and that actually led me to a burnout. And that burnout phase, where it was 1 week where I couldn't, I didn't feel like I didn't have motivation to work on anything that's related with X. I realized it was a burnout, and it was my first lesson essentially, and I started changing my approach, trying to analyze the situation of why it happened and how can I prevent that from happening. And I started creating these systems around my goals, and that's how I that's what led to me essentially creating the productivity and this sort of thing of an offer. It's because I had to teach myself how to do that to achieve my results, essentially. So I would say those are the three main things: undefined goals, not getting compensated for your work, and not getting rewarded, essentially, not feeling like it's fair. And there is this extra thing as well, which is how do you say this though? It's kind of tricky. Let me mention it for a few seconds. Yeah. Anyway, it went away. Let's keep moving, and perhaps maybe it will come back later. It was not that important anyway. So does that answer the question
All
about
right,
the
sounds
burnout?
good. Yeah, it's so good. I feel like these are all just so many good points and actionable things for people to think about that will help them with these different areas that they struggle with. Moving on to sort of the future for you, what are your
Uh-huh.
sort of plans with your brand? Do you want to be a micro authority, or do you want to grow a large brand, say like Danco, Alex Ramosi, like huge brand?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, and I have started realizing this more and more as time passes, but I realized that I'm more of a private person, and I don't know if I want to share too much of my life just openly. I have my vision of helping as many people as possible with finding their purpose and getting themselves out of those negative states that I have experienced myself. And that's like, and I want to take it as far as possible. If it means, um, if it means for me to create that impact, if it means that I will have to become an authority on that space, and maybe even a public figure, then I will take the bite. Let's say I will take it. I will do it if I have to, but I don't care about becoming like famous, quote unquote. I don't care about that. I would prefer to be anonymous, essentially. But as Hormozy says, like if creating an online image for people to watch, an online version of myself, essentially, and opening myself up to the public, if that's what I have to do, and of course, getting the chance of being criticized for it, of course. Uh, if that's what I have to do to achieve the impact that I want to have, then I will take it. That's my answer.
I love that. So I think it's a good frame of thought to have, not to be so committed to one thing or the other. It'll evolve as the goal and what is needed for your purpose becomes clear.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree, man.
Do you, moving on to sort of lifestyle, do you have sort of a dream destination that you would want to live or travel to?
Japan. It's a first thing that always comes to mind during those types of questions. I love the culture of Japan. I have been studying Japanese for some time now. Now at this moment, it's a little bit behind due to all the things I'm working on, but I want to eventually be able to speak Japanese properly. I can understand speech right now, but I can't really speak it that much or even read. But I generally love the culture. Actually, back when I was depressed and socially anxious, I used to watch a lot of anime, the Japanese animation kind of thing. And it actually helped me a lot. It gave me some motivation, and people might laugh at this, but or because generally people don't have the best idea about anime, but those anime actually kept me going for a while. Like they gave me this initial spark back then, like 10 years ago. They gave me this initial spark of um, the motivation to make something out of my life, because there are in those anime there is all those characters who are going through hardships and stuff, and they somehow come out the other end. And the Japanese have a lot of that. Actually, there is always like the character that is like the outsider, and he somehow overcomes difficulties, and he has like this immense character development and becomes like the hero and the archetype of the hero, if we see it from the Jungian perspective of psychology. I really admire the Japanese for creating things that generally inspire people to work for for what they love, and follow their dreams, essentially, no matter how crazy they are. I haven't found this kind of feeling and this kind of vibe in art or animation anywhere else rather than the Japanese anime. So I'm a huge fan, and generally of the Japanese culture as well, of course.
That's awesome. I think
With
it's
with
cool
the
that you can
samurai
pull
man
those
and everything.
lessons. Yeah, it's a culture I'm also very interested in. I'm interested in so many cultures, but Japanese is definitely one I especially like. Especially I enjoy their cuisine, and yeah, and
Mm.
it's very important to understand other cultures, and I think travel there to become a a wise person.
Batman, highly agree. Let's go to Japan together
As we come to
sometime.
the end, yeah, we should. Yeah, there's so much cool history there and so many things. As we come to the end of the podcast, if you could have the audience take away one thing after listening, what would it be?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the chance to do that. So, what I want people who potentially listen to this to take away is that, as someone who has struggled with many things and has come from a very low place in my life, and without at times having anyone to help me, I want to say that you owe it to yourself to define what you want, to really define what you want, not trick yourself into thinking that you know what you want, to really ask the deep questions and define what you want, and do the best in your power to achieve that. And if you do that and you stay determined, no matter how hard things will get, you will make it there. Because I made it here, and I'm no genius or anything. I'm just a simple guy with a strong determination. So that's what I would like people who watch this to take. That's my message.
I love that. I love that. And I think that is an amazing way to end off this amazing podcast. So thank you for coming on, Savas.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation again.